The encrypted message arrived during Zara's sleep cycle, burning through her consciousness like acid. War Commander Thek Prime's words were brief, but devastating. The Corvani High Command had grown impatient with gradual intelligence gathering. A strike fleet was moving toward human space, ready to begin the conquest phase ahead of schedule. Zara sat in her darkened quarters, staring at the holographic text that only her enhanced vision could read. The timeline had accelerated dramatically. Instead of months to complete her mission, she now had weeks before Corvani warships would arrive to begin the systematic destruction of human colonies. The message contained additional intelligence that made her stomach clench with dread. Thek Prime himself was leading the strike fleet aboard the dreadnought Void Render. This was not going to be a limited engagement or a show of force. The Corvani were coming to eliminate humanity as a species. As she deleted the message and prepared for another day of maintaining her cover, Zara felt the weight of knowledge pressing down on her like a physical force. Around her, the ship continued its normal rhythms. Families were waking up and preparing for breakfast. Children were getting ready for school. Engineers were beginning their shifts to maintain the systems that kept everyone alive. None of them knew that death was racing toward them through the void. The day brought its usual routine of meetings, research, and observation. Zara attended a briefing where Dr. Rivera discussed defensive preparations for the new colony. His plans were thorough but focused entirely on natural threats like storms, wildlife, and geological instability. The idea that an advanced alien fleet might attack them had never entered human strategic thinking. Our primary concern will be establishing reliable communication with Earth, Rivera explained to the assembled department heads. The colonists need to know they are not forgotten. Maintaining morale during the early years will be crucial for long-term success. Captain Morrison nodded thoughtfully. What about security protocols? I know we are not expecting trouble, but we should be prepared for unexpected situations. Standard perimeter monitoring and emergency response procedures, Rivera replied. Our weapons are designed for hunting and pest control, with some heavier equipment for mining operations. If we encounter hostile wildlife, we should be able to handle it. Zara wanted to scream at them to prepare for war, to understand that their peaceful intentions meant nothing to species like hers. But she sat silently, taking notes like the xenobiologist she pretended to be. The afternoon brought a crisis that changed everything. A distress signal reached New Haven from the transport ship Golden Dawn, a smaller vessel carrying medical supplies to a frontier colony. Pirates had attacked the ship, killing several crew members and taking hostages. In the emergency meeting that followed, Zara expected the humans to make excuses and continue toward their own destination. Self-preservation was the most basic survival instinct. No rational species would risk 50,000 lives to save a few hundred strangers. Captain Morrison's response shattered her expectations once again. We alter course immediately, he announced to his senior staff. Navigation, plot and intercept course, engineering, prepare for emergency acceleration, security, ready all available weapons and personnel. Dr. Rivera looked troubled. Captain, our weapons are not designed for ship-to-ship combat. We are colonists, not military. Then we become military, Morrison replied firmly. We do not abandon people in need. That is what separates us from the monsters we might face out here. Chief, Engineer Park spoke up from her position at the conference table. The course change will delay our arrival at Kepler 442b by at least 2 weeks. Fuel consumption will increase significantly. Noted and accepted, Morrison said without hesitation. Anyone who cannot live with this decision can object now. Anyone who cannot follow orders based on this decision can request transfer to civilian duties. No one objected. Not a single human in that room questioned the captain's choice to risk everything for strangers. Zara watched their faces and saw not blind obedience but genuine agreement with the decision. The rescue mission took 18 hours of dangerous flying through an asteroid field where the pirates had taken refuge. Zara observed human behavior under extreme stress and found it completely different from Corvani predictions. Instead of panic and chaos, she saw coordinated teamwork. Instead of self-serving behavior, she witnessed repeated acts of selfless courage. When the ship's young pilot Danny Walsh volunteered for a suicidal attack run on the pirate vessel, 3 other pilots immediately volunteered to join him. When Chief Park's daughter Kate insisted on helping with damage control, adult crew members worked to keep her safe while still allowing her to contribute. The rescue succeeded, but at terrible cost. Danny Walsh died when his fighter was destroyed, covering the retreat of the civilian transport. 2 engineers died repairing critical systems under enemy fire. 5 others were seriously wounded. That night, Zara attended the memorial service for the fallen crew members. She expected a quick, formal ceremony focused on moving past the tragedy and returning to normal operations. Instead, she witnessed something that shook her to her core. The entire ship's population gathered in the main assembly hall. Captain Morrison spoke about each person who had died, sharing personal stories and individual achievements. He talked about Danny's love for ancient music and his dreams of becoming a professional pilot. He described the 2 engineers as devoted, parents who had worked extra shifts to help other families. But the most powerful moment came when the families of the dead spoke about their loved ones. Danny's mother stood before 50,000 people and talked about her son's kindness and humor. She thanked the crew for giving him the chance to die as a hero rather than a victim. "He would want us to keep going," she said through her tears. "He would want us to build something beautiful on our new world. He would want his sacrifice to mean something." The assembly responded not with empty platitudes but with concrete commitments. Families offered to help raise Danny's younger sister. Engineers promised to complete the projects that the dead had left unfinished. Teachers volunteered to establish a scholarship in their names. Zara found herself crying for the first time in her adult life. The tears felt strange on her human face, warm and cleansing in a way she had never experienced. She was mourning people she had barely known, feeling genuine grief for creatures she had been sent to destroy. As the ceremony ended and people began to disperse, Dr. Rivera approached her. His expression was serious and concerned. "Dr. Chen, I need to speak with you privately," he said quietly. "There are some energy readings I would like you to examine." Zara felt ice form in her stomach. She had been careful to maintain her biological disguise, but the emotional stress of recent events had made control more difficult. Her Corvani physiology was leaking through the facade in ways that human sensors might detect. They walked to Rivera's office in the security section. The room was small and cramped, filled with displays showing various scanner readings and defensive system status reports. Rivera closed the door and activated privacy shields before turning to face her. "I have been monitoring unusual biosignatures throughout the ship," he began carefully. "Most are easily explained by the stress we have all been under. But there is one reading that concerns me." He activated a holographic display showing energy patterns that Zara recognized immediately. They were the electromagnetic fluctuations created by Corvani shapeshifting abilities. The readings were faint but clearly present. "Can you explain these patterns, Dr. Chen?" Rivera asked, his hand resting casually near his sidearm. Zara felt the moment of truth arriving like a crushing wave. She could kill Rivera easily, make his death look like an accident, and continue her mission. She could maintain her cover and continue feeding intelligence to the approaching Corvani fleet. Or she could make a choice that would change everything. Looking into Rivera's eyes, seeing the trust and concern there rather than hatred or fear, Zara realized that she no longer wanted to be what she had always been. "Dr. Rivera," she said slowly, "I think we need to discuss what you really want to know." Dr. Rivera leaned back in his chair, studying Zara's face with the intensity of a man who had spent years learning to read people under pressure. The silence in his office stretched between them like a taut wire, ready to snap at the first wrong word. "I have been watching you for weeks, Dr. Chen," Rivera said finally. "Your knowledge of stellar mechanics during the navigation crisis was remarkable. Too remarkable for someone whose specialty is supposed to be alien biology. Your bio readings show energy patterns I have never seen in human physiology. Most importantly, you have been asking very specific questions about our defensive capabilities and communication systems." Zara felt her carefully constructed cover crumbling around her. Every instinct screamed at her to strike, to eliminate this threat, and disappear into the ship's population. She could take Rivera's identity, or create chaos that would mask her escape. The mission could still be salvaged. But as she looked at this human who had spent weeks analyzing her instead of simply raising an alarm, she realized something profound. Rivera was not confronting her out of hatred or fear. His body language showed caution but also genuine curiosity. He wanted to understand, not destroy. "What do you think I am?" she asked quietly. "I think you are not human," Rivera replied. "But I also think you have been protecting us rather than harming us. The guidance you provided during the navigation crisis saved this ship. The information you have been gathering could have been obtained much more efficiently through sabotage and computer infiltration. Instead, you have been living among us, learning about us as individuals." Rivera stood and moved to his desk, keeping his hands visible and non-threatening. "So I will ask you directly, what are you and what do you want?" The moment hung between them like a bridge over an abyss. Zara could step back into the familiar territory of deception and violence, or she could move forward into something entirely new. She chose to move forward. The transformation was subtle, but unmistakable. Her skin shifted from brown to silver. Her height increased slightly. Her facial features became more angular and defined. When it was complete, she stood before Rivera as a Corvani agent for the first time since beginning her mission. Rivera's eyes widened, but he did not reach for his weapon. Instead, he studied her new appearance with the same analytical intensity he had shown before. "You are beautiful," he said simply, "and you are terrified." The observation caught Zara completely off guard. She had expected accusations, demands, or threats. She had not expected kindness. "I am Zara Thek 9 of the Corvani Empire," she said, her voice carrying new harmonics in its natural form. "I was sent to infiltrate your species and gather intelligence for conquest. My people believe humans are a threat that must be eliminated before you spread too far into the galaxy." Rivera nodded slowly. "And what do you believe now?" "I believe my people are wrong," Zara replied without hesitation. "I have lived among you for months. I have seen how you treat your children, your elderly, your weak. I have watched you sacrifice for strangers and work together toward common goals. You are not the chaotic savages my species thinks you are. But your people are still coming," Rivera stated rather than asked. "Yes. A strike fleet led by War Commander Thek Prime. They will arrive within weeks, expecting to find humans weakened by internal conflict and easy to defeat. Instead, they will find 50,000 people who will fight to the death to protect each other." Rivera was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. When he spoke again, his voice was steady and professional. "Will you help us prepare?" The question hung in the air between them. Zara understood what he was really asking. Would she betray her own species to save the humans she had come to love? Would she choose the family she had found over the people who had created her? "Yes," she said, "but we must be careful. I have been sending false reports to my handlers claiming that humans are even more primitive and divided than originally believed. This has bought us time, but it will not last forever. What do they expect from your next report? Details about your defensive capabilities, communication systems, and leadership structure. Information that will help them plan their attack." Rivera activated his computer terminal and began pulling up files. "Then we give them what they expect, but not what they need. False information that looks authentic, but leads them into mistakes." Working together through the night, they crafted a deception that would send Thek Prime's fleet into confusion. Zara provided real intelligence about Corvani tactics and technology, while Rivera adapted human systems to counter them. They identified choke points in the ship's layout that could become killing fields, weapons that could be modified to penetrate Corvani armor, and communication frequencies that could disrupt enemy coordination. Most importantly, they planned how to reveal Zara's true nature to the ship's leadership without causing panic. The conversation with Captain Morrison took place 3 days later in his private quarters. Rivera had arranged the meeting under the pretext of discussing long-term security planning for the colony. Morrison listened to their explanation with the calm attention that had made him such an effective leader. When Zara completed her transformation and stood before him in her true form, Morrison studied her for a long moment before speaking. "How many of your people are coming?" he asked. "A full strike fleet. At least 50 ships with advanced weapons and shields. They expect easy victory against primitive humans. And you are willing to help us prove them wrong?" "Yes, Captain. These people have become my family. I will not let them be destroyed." Morrison nodded slowly. "Dr. Rivera, what is your assessment of our chances?" "With conventional tactics, we would lose quickly and completely. But Dr. Chen has provided intelligence that changes the equation. We cannot match their firepower, but we can use their assumptions against them." "Very well," Morrison said. "Dr. Chen, you will continue your regular reports to your commanders. Dr. Rivera, you will begin discreet preparations for defense. I will speak with Chief Park about technical modifications. We keep this information limited to essential personnel only." As they prepared to leave, Morrison called out to Zara. "Dr. Chen, or should I say Agent Thek 9? "Zara is fine, Captain." "Zara, then, I want you to know that your origins do not matter to this crew. You have chosen to stand with us, and that makes you one of us. We protect our own." The words hit Zara like a physical blow. She had expected suspicion, demands for proof of loyalty, or at minimum a period of testing and evaluation. Instead, Morrison had offered unconditional acceptance based on her choice, rather than her biology. "Thank you, Captain," she managed to say. As she left Morrison's quarters, Zara felt the last pieces of her old identity falling away. She was no longer Corvani Agent Thek 9 following orders from distant commanders. She was Zara, defender of New Haven, protector of the humans who had shown her what family really meant. The next 2 weeks passed in careful preparation. Zara continued sending false reports while secretly helping Rivera modify the ship's systems. They installed hidden weapon emplacements, reinforced critical areas, and established backup communication networks. Most importantly, they trained key personnel in anti-Corvani tactics without revealing the true nature of the threat. Everything changed when the proximity alarms began screaming. "Unknown vessels detected at extreme sensor range," came the announcement. From the bridge. "Multiple contacts closing fast." Zara felt her heart stop. The Corvani fleet had arrived ahead of schedule, and their deception was about to be tested in the crucible of actual combat. As she ran toward her battle station, Zara caught sight of Kate Park helping younger children toward emergency shelters. The girl looked up and smiled at her with complete trust. In that moment, Zara knew she would die before letting any harm come to these people. They were her family now, and family was worth any sacrifice. The Corvani strike fleet emerged from hyperspace like sharks scenting blood in the water. 50 sleek warships arranged themselves in perfect formation, their dark hulls absorbing the light of distant stars. At their center, the massive dreadnought, Void Render, cast its shadow across space like a harbinger of death. On the bridge of New Haven, Captain Morrison watched the display with grim determination. The human colony ship hung in space near Kepler 442b, apparently helpless and unprepared for the assault about to fall upon it. "All stations report ready, Captain," Dr. Rivera announced from his position at the tactical station. "Emergency protocols are in effect. Civilian populations are in designated safe areas." Zara stood beside him, no longer hiding her true appearance. The bridge crew had reacted to her transformation with surprise, but not fear. When Morrison had explained her defection and the intelligence she provided, they had accepted her as one of their own with the same trust they showed each other. "Incoming transmission from the lead Corvani vessel," the communications officer reported. "Put it on screen," Morrison ordered. The display filled with the familiar figure of War Commander Thek Prime. His golden eyes burned with cold fury as he recognized Zara standing on the human bridge. "Pathetic traitor," Thek Prime snarled in the Corvani language. "You have betrayed your own species for these primitive creatures. Your dishonor will be remembered for generations." Zara stepped forward, meeting her former commander's gaze without flinching. "I have found something worth more than conquest, Thek Prime. I have found family." "Family?" Thek Prime laughed bitterly. These animals will abandon you the moment survival requires it. Watch as they sacrifice you to save themselves. Captain, Morrison moved to stand beside Zara, his presence calm and reassuring. War Commander, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human colony ship New Haven. We are peaceful settlers seeking only to build a new home. We have no quarrel with your people. Your species exists without permission, Tech Prime replied, switching to heavily accented English. That is quarrel enough. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift. Respectfully declined, Morrison said. We will defend ourselves. Tech Prime's expression shifted to one of amused contempt. Your single ship against 50 of our finest warships. Your defenses are primitive, your weapons obsolete. This will be over in minutes. Perhaps, Morrison replied calmly, but we will make those minutes count. The transmission ended, and Tech Prime's fleet began its attack approach. The Corvani ships moved with practiced precision, their formation designed to overwhelm any possible defense through concentrated firepower. All stations, execute Plan Omega, Morrison announced. What happened next defied every assumption the Corvani had made about human capabilities. Hidden weapon batteries emerged from concealed positions throughout New Haven's hull. Mining charges that had been secretly converted to military use created a defensive perimeter around the ship. Most importantly, the humans demonstrated a level of coordination and tactical thinking that no Corvani intelligence report had predicted. Chief Engineer Park had worked miracles with the ship's systems. The fusion drives had been modified to create electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Corvani targeting systems. The mining equipment had been weaponized into plasma cannons that could penetrate enemy shields. Even the cargo containers had been turned into improvised missile platforms. But the key to human success was not their modified technology. It was their willingness to sacrifice for each other. When Corvani fighters broke through the outer defenses, pilot after pilot made ramming attacks to protect vulnerable areas of the ship. When boarding parties breached the hull, civilian volunteers fought beside trained security personnel to repel the invaders. When ammunition ran low, people donated personal possessions to be converted into projectiles. Zara fought alongside Dr. Rivera in the ship's corridors, using her knowledge of Corvani tactics to anticipate enemy movements. Together they led human defenders in asymmetric warfare that turned the colony ship's interior into a maze of deadly surprises for the invaders. How are they doing this? Zara heard a Corvani officer scream over the communication channels. The intelligence report said they were disorganized and cowardly. The intelligence was wrong, Zara replied, broadcasting on Corvani frequencies. They fight for each other. That makes them stronger than we ever imagined. The battle raged. For 6 hours, far longer than any Corvani conflict in recent memory. Human ingenuity and determination were taking a terrible toll on the supposedly superior alien fleet. But the humans were also paying a heavy price. New Haven's hull was scarred by energy weapons. Entire sections had been destroyed. Hundreds of brave people had died defending their new home. The end came when War Commander Tech Prime, enraged by his fleet's poor performance, challenged Zara to single combat according to ancient Corvani tradition. As her former superior officer, he had the right to reclaim her honor through personal battle. I invoke the right of correction, Tech Prime announced, his voice carrying across all communication channels. The traitor Zara Tech 9 will face me in honorable combat. If she wins, my fleet withdraws. If I win, her chosen family dies slowly, Captain. Morrison immediately stepped forward. I will fight in her place. As her commanding officer, that right is mine. But Zara gently pushed him aside. No, Captain. This is my burden to carry. It always has been. The combat took place in New Haven's main docking bay, with representatives from both sides watching. Tech Prime was larger and stronger than Zara, with decades more combat experience. His silver skin gleamed with bio-enhanced armor that made him nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. But as they circled each other in the zero-gravity environment, Zara realized something that her former commander did not understand. She was no longer fighting for duty or honor or conquest. She was fighting for love. When Thek Prime attacked with the brutal efficiency that had made him legendary, Zara did not try to match his strength. Instead, she fought with the tactical creativity she had learned from humans. She used the docking, Bay's equipment as weapons and shields. She employed misdirection and unconventional angles that confused her opponent. Most importantly, she fought with a purpose beyond personal survival. The decisive moment came when Thek Prime, frustrated by his inability to land a killing blow, made a mistake born of anger rather than strategy. Zara seized the opening and struck with precision rather than force, finding the one weakness in his enhanced physiology that her medical knowledge had revealed. As War Commander Thek Prime fell, mortally wounded by his own fury, he looked up at Zara with something approaching understanding. "You really have chosen them over us," he whispered. "Yes," Zara replied, "and I would make the same choice again." The Corvani fleet, bound by their honor code and the results of ritual combat, withdrew from human space. But Zara knew this was only a temporary victory. They would return with greater force and better intelligence. As New Haven resumed its journey toward the planet's surface, Zara stood in the observation deck watching their new sun rise over an alien horizon. The colony ship was scarred, but not broken, its people wounded but not defeated. Captain Morrison joined her at the viewing port. "What do you see when you look at that planet?" he asked. "I see home," Zara replied. "For the first time in my life, I see home." Below them, the green and blue world of Kepler 442b waited for its new inhabitants. In the weeks that followed, humans and their adopted Corvani defender would build something beautiful together. Schools for children like Kate Park, laboratories where Dr. Rivera could develop new defensive technologies, communities where people like Chief Engineer Park could create better lives for their families, and in the center of it all, Zara would stand as guardian and guide, helping humanity prepare for the challenges that lay ahead. She had been sent to spy on humans and had instead learned what it meant to be truly alive. The Corvani had missed everything important about humanity. They had seen weakness where there was actually strength. They had expected chaos, but found unity. They had planned for conquest but encountered something far more powerful than military might. They had encountered love. And love, as Zara now understood, was the force that would carry humanity to the stars and beyond. As the colony ships began their descent toward their new home, Zara smiled and prepared to help her chosen family build the future they deserved. Zara Thek 9 stood before the massive viewing screen in the war room of the Corvani mothership. Her silver skin reflected the cold blue lights that filled the chamber. Behind her, War Commander Thek Prime moved with the silent grace that all Corvani possessed. His presence made the air feel heavy and dangerous. "Look at them," Thek Prime said, pointing at the images of human ships on the screen. "These creatures multiply like insects. 20 years ago, they had barely left their home world. Now they spread across dozens of star systems." Zara studied the human vessels. They looked crude compared to Corvani ships with their rough metal hulls and primitive fusion drives. Yet something about their design suggested a practical intelligence that troubled her. The humans built their ships to last, not to impress. "They are still weak," Zara replied, keeping her voice steady. "Their weapons are simple. Their armor is thin. A single Corvani battlecruiser could destroy 50 of their ships." Thek Prime turned to face her. His golden eyes held no warmth. "Perhaps, but they learn quickly, too quickly. Our scouts report that their newest ships carry energy shields. Crude ones, but shields nonetheless. They developed this technology in only 5 years. It took our people 50 years to achieve the same advancement." The war room fell silent except for the low humming of the ship's engines. Other Corvani officers stood at their stations, but none dared to speak. When the war commander discussed strategy, only invited voices could join the conversation. "This is why you must go among them," Thek Prime continued. "We need to understand how they think, how they organize, what makes them so adaptable. Once we know their weaknesses, we can act." Zara nodded. She had trained for this mission her entire adult life. The Corvani had perfected the art of biological manipulation centuries ago. They could change their appearance, alter their body chemistry, even modify their internal organs to match other species. It was the perfect tool for espionage. "Tell me about the target," she said. Thek Prime activated a new display. The image showed a massive human colony ship, its hull painted white with blue markings. The vessel is called New Haven. It carries 50,000 humans to establish a colony on Kepler 442b. The journey will take 8 months. You will have ample time to study them. The ship looked enormous by human standards, but Zara knew it was still smaller than a typical Corvani transport, yet somehow the humans had managed to pack 50,000 lives into that single vessel. She wondered how they prevented chaos and violence in such crowded conditions. "Your identity is already prepared," Thek Prime said. He handed her a data crystal. "You will be Dr. Maya Chen, a specialist in alien biology. The real Dr. Chen died in an accident on Earth. We have erased all records of her death and inserted you into the ship's passenger manifest." Zara took the crystal and absorbed its contents through her fingertips. Instantly, she knew everything about Maya Chen's life, education, and personality. The woman had been brilliant but quiet, dedicated to her research but somewhat isolated from her colleagues. It was a perfect cover for someone who needed to observe without drawing attention. "What are my specific objectives?" Zara asked. "First, identify their military capabilities. We know they carry defensive weapons, but we need details about their training, tactics, and command structure. Second, assess their technological development. Focus on their computers, engines, and communication systems. Third, study their social organization. How do they maintain order? How do they resolve conflicts? What motivates them?" Thek Prime paused and his expression grew more serious. "Most importantly, find their breaking point. Every species has one. Push them until you discover what makes them crack. Fear, hunger, isolation. Once we know how to break them, conquest becomes simple." Zara felt a familiar coldness settle in her chest. This was the moment she lived for, the purpose that defined her existence. She was a weapon of the Corvani Empire, designed to infiltrate and destroy. The thought of studying these humans like laboratory specimens filled her with anticipation. "When do I depart?" she asked. "Immediately. Your transport is already prepared. You will intercept the human ship at their first supply stop. Integration into their crew should be straightforward given your cover identity." Zara began the physical transformation as she walked toward the exit. Her silver skin darkened to a warm brown tone. Her height decreased by several inches. Her facial features shifted and softened. By the time she reached the docking bay, she looked completely human. The transport ship was small and fast, designed to avoid detection by human sensors. As Zara settled into the pilot's seat, she reviewed everything the Corvani knew about human psychology. According to their research, humans were violent, selfish, and prone to panic under pressure. They formed loose social groups that dissolved quickly when resources became scarce. They were driven primarily by personal gain and showed little loyalty to anything beyond their immediate family units. The journey to the intercept point took 3 days. During this time, Zara practiced human mannerisms and speech patterns. She studied recordings of human interactions, noting their tendency toward emotional displays and inefficient communication methods. Everything she observed confirmed what Corvani science had already determined. Humans were a chaotic species that succeeded through luck rather than intelligence. When the New Haven appeared on her sensors, Zara felt a moment of surprise. The ship was larger than the images had suggested, and it moved with purpose rather than the wandering path she had expected. Multiple smaller vessels accompanied it, maintaining precise formations that spoke of military discipline. She activated her distress beacon and waited. According to her intelligence, humans were compulsively helpful and would investigate any emergency signal. This weakness would provide her entry point into their society. The response came within minutes. A human voice crackled over the communication system. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the colony ship New Haven. We are receiving your distress signal. Please state the nature of your emergency." Zara modulated her voice to sound frightened and grateful. This is Dr. Maya Chen. My research vessel suffered engine failure. Life support is failing. Please, I need immediate rescue. Dr. Chen, we are moving to assist. Prepare for docking procedures. Medical teams are standing by. As the massive human ship grew larger on her screen, Zara felt the familiar excitement of a hunt beginning. These humans had no idea that death itself was about to walk among them, studying their every weakness and preparing their destruction. The docking bay doors opened like a mouth ready to swallow her small ship. Zara smiled as she prepared to meet her prey. 3 months had passed since Zara joined the crew of New Haven, and nothing was as she had expected. The human ship hummed with activity day and night, but it was not the chaotic noise she had been trained to anticipate. Instead, she found herself surrounded by a complex rhythm of coordinated effort that seemed almost impossible for such a primitive species. Her quarters were small but comfortable, located in the science section near the other researchers. The humans had welcomed Dr. Maya Chen without suspicion, eager to have another xenobiologist on their team. They had given her access to laboratories, computer systems, and research data with a trust that both amazed and troubled her. Captain Jake Morrison had personally greeted her during those first days. He was a tall man with graying hair and calm eyes that seemed to see everything around him. When he spoke to his crew, they listened not out of fear but from genuine respect. Zara had watched him carefully, expecting to find the brutal authoritarian that Corvani intelligence claimed led all human military units. Instead, she discovered something far more dangerous than brutality. Morrison led through example. When food supplies ran low during the 2nd month, he immediately cut his own rations before asking anyone else to sacrifice. When the night shift complained about malfunctioning lights in their quarters, he spent his own rest period helping the maintenance teams repair them. The crew comes first, she had heard him tell his officers. We are not passengers on this journey, we are family. Family. The humans use this word constantly, applying it far beyond their biological relatives. Zara had observed Chief Engineer Lisa Park working 18-hour shifts when the life support systems began failing in the lower decks. Park had a daughter named Kate, but during the crisis she treated every person on the ship as if they were her own child. I will not rest until everyone can breathe safely, Park had declared to her exhausted team. And she had kept that promise, working until her hands bled from handling damaged components. When the repairs were finally complete, she had collapsed from exhaustion, but her first words upon waking were questions about the welfare of others. This behavior made no sense according to Corvani understanding of evolution and survival. Park had endangered her own health and potentially left her actual daughter orphaned, all to help strangers. Yet the other humans praised her actions as heroic rather than foolish. Dr. Alex Rivera presented another puzzle. As the colony's defense coordinator, Zara had expected him to be planning aggressive military campaigns. Instead, she found him designing emergency shelters and evacuation procedures. His weapon systems were focused on protection rather than attack, designed to disable rather than destroy. We do not go looking for fights, Rivera had explained when Zara questioned him about human military doctrine. But we protect what matters to us. Sometimes that means being ready to fight, but always as a last option. The most disturbing example of human behavior came during the 3rd month when a child named Tommy fell seriously ill. The boy was only 8 years old, the son of 2 engineers in Park's department. When his condition worsened beyond the ship's medical capabilities, Zara expected the humans to accept his death as an unfortunate but inevitable loss. Instead, the entire medical team led by Dr. Sam Chen worked without sleep for 4 days straight. They converted a storage bay into an advanced treatment facility. They jury-rigged equipment that had never been designed to work together. They shared their own blood when Tommy needed transfusions, standing in line to donate despite the risk to their own health. Dr. Chen himself stayed by the boy's bedside throughout the crisis, monitoring every vital sign and adjusting treatments minute by minute. Zara watched him carefully, trying to understand what motivated such dedication to a single small life. In Corvani society, The weak were allowed to die so the strong could thrive. Resources were never wasted on those who could not contribute to the greater whole. But when Tommy finally recovered and took his first steady breath in days, the joy that filled the medical bay was unlike anything Zara had ever witnessed. Grown humans wept with relief. They embraced each other regardless of rank or relationship. They celebrated the survival of one child as if it were a great military victory. "This is why we go to the stars," Dr. Chen had said, exhausting but smiling, as he watched Tommy sleep peacefully. "Not for conquest or glory, but to give our children a better future." During her surveillance of these key targets, Zara found herself experiencing emotions that had no place in a Corvani agent's mind. When Kate Park struggled with her mathematics homework, Zara felt an unexpected urge to help. She began offering tutoring sessions, telling herself it was merely a way to gain closer access to the Park family. But as she watched Kate's face light up with understanding, as she saw the girl's confidence grow with each solved problem, Zara felt something she had never experienced before. It was warm and satisfying in a way that had nothing to do with mission objectives or personal advancement. The humans called it joy, and Zara found herself becoming addicted to the feeling. The breaking point came during the ship's encounter with a spatial anomaly. New Haven's navigation systems were damaged, leaving them lost in space with failing engines. The crew faced the possibility of drifting until their supplies ran out, 50,000 lives hanging in the balance. Zara possessed the knowledge to help them. Her understanding of stellar mechanics and space-time distortions far exceeded human science. She could guide them to safety with a few subtle suggestions that would appear to come from their own research. But helping them would mean revealing capabilities that no human xenobiologist should possess. It would risk her cover and endanger her mission. According to her training, she should let them die and find another way to complete her reconnaissance. As she watched the human engineers struggle with calculations they could not solve, as she saw the quiet desperation in Captain Morrison's eyes, as she thought about Kate Park growing up as an orphan in empty space, Zara made a choice that surprised her. She began to help. Working carefully through intermediaries and anonymous computer messages, she guided the human scientists toward the correct solutions. She provided hints that led them to breakthrough insights. She watched Dr. Rivera and Chief Engineer Park work together, building on her subtle guidance to save their ship and everyone aboard. When New Haven finally escaped the anomaly and resumed course toward their new home, the humans celebrated another victory of cooperation and determination. They had no idea that their salvation had come from the enemy agent living among them. But Zara knew, and for the first time in her life, she felt proud of something that had nothing to do with serving the Corvani Empire. That night, as she sat in her quarters writing her regular report to Thek Prime, Zara found herself unable to include certain observations. She wrote about human technology and defensive capabilities, but she left out their capacity for self-sacrifice. She described their social structure but omitted their loyalty to each other. She reported on their leadership but failed to mention their compassion. As she transmitted the incomplete intelligence to her handlers, Zara told herself she was being strategically selective. The Corvani needed military information, not psychological profiles. There was no reason to include emotional details that had no bearing on conquest plans. But deep in her mind, a small voice whispered the truth she was not yet ready to acknowledge. She was not protecting her mission. She was protecting the humans.